Welcome back, passengers. MegaSim here. Yesterday we had part 1 of the roadmap. What was that? There was 8,000 words. It went on for 58 minutes of me talking, but we are back once again for another roadmap. It's the second part of the roadmap, all to do with Train Sim World 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to sit back, relax, listen to the Train Sim World 4 music as we go through Roadmap Part 2. So ding ding ding, seconds out, round 2 for Part 2 of Train Sim World 4 Roadmap. In case you missed it, Train Sim World 4 with a whole slew of new content, improvements and features hits our stores on Tuesday the 26th of September. And if you pre-ordered deluxe and special editions, 21st of September. Oh, and if you want to catch up in video form, don't forget to watch the Dovetail Direct keynote. Watch all the thing in all its glory. Or check out my videos at MegaSim. We've got some videos looking at some of the new features, part 1 of that roadmap, and many more videos. But today we're focusing on the new and updated core features coming to the new game, and we have got a lot to go through. PC Editor, Free Roam, Scenario Planner 2.0, Livery Designer 2.0, Formation Designer, Photo Mode, new scoring, ease of access improvements, haptics, volumetric fog, audio and source trips, and music. Oh, let's get started, shall we? Railfan TV schedule. Just as a reminder, there are lots of live streaming schedules coming up showcasing Train Sim World 4 right up to the final day before 25th of September. So as I said, 21st for early access, 26th for normal access. So the PC Editor in beta. Way back in 2019, Dovetail spoke about their desire to bring the Unreal Engine 4 editor to PC players. Well, it's taken a little while, but they're delighted to be able to offer access to the PC editor to players with Train Sim World 4. But what is the editor? And what possibilities will it enable for you? Executive producer Matt Pedalston has the details. So Matt, what is the PC editor? Well, Train Sim World is built using the heavily modified version of Unreal Engine 4 editor. All the trains we drive and the routes we drive them on are built by the team with this tool. The PC editor we're talking about here is exactly that. It's a special build of the editor that works outside of the development environment, but otherwise is identical and will let you create any content you like, exactly like the team does. So tell us a little bit about what players will be able to do with this PC editor, Matt. Well, the PC editor allows you to create anything that works in the game, including new routes, new trains, new scenarios, and even new timetables for service mode. The command line tools for running the simulations to create the timetables is all part of the package as well, as is the packaging tool used to create the package files that allow you to share your creations with friends. You won't be able to modify existing content, however, because Unreal uses a process called cooking for content as part of the process to create the version that you get on Steam to play. This cooking process strips out a lot of data from files, which is unnecessary to run the game and only necessary to edit it. As a result, these files cannot be opened in the editor. They've done a lot of work to get around this in many cases, so we can open cooked routes and fly around them, and we can even play the entire game using the Play in Editor functionality, which means we can use live debugging tools and so forth to review what we're doing. Creating entirely new routes and trains is perfectly possible, but adding to existing routes is going to be a challenge, as is tweaking trains. That said, they haven't put any specific blocks in anywhere, and one of the areas they plan to review going forward is where players are specifically looking for something to work, and we can try to make that happen to make it easier to do what you're looking for. Where assets are simply needed in source form, again, They're reviewing what the possibilities are to provide these in the future, and we'll be looking at all our feedback to see where to prioritise this as well. Adding new scenario and service modes to routes, however, is very much achievable and a really great place to start your editing journey, as you'll be amazed at how much you can achieve just there and then. Take that and enhance your skills as you go. So what functionality will it have on launch? Well, Dovetail are ensuring that the scenario and service mode workflows work smoothly to get started. They don't foresee any problems with creation of new routes and trains, but fully expect creators to find limitations when it comes to attempting to modify existing content due to how the packaging system works on Unreal. They'll be listening to our feedback to see where they can help going forwards to make this as easy as possible. So how easy is it to use? The Unreal Editor is a professional game development tool, and as such it's very short on wizards and guides built into the tool. Sorry, I've just got my orange here. You can quickly lose your way, or more likely struggle, to even figure out where to get started. There's no simple create new scenario button, for example. That said, there are a lot of great Unreal Engine tutorial videos on YouTube from Epic Games themselves that provide some fantastic guides to all areas of the main Unreal Engine. And they plan on creating several videos and articles that can show us the specifics of TrainSimWorld's version of the editor as well. Read up, get your learn on, and once you get the hang of it, you'll find you can achieve great things with it. Now, it's been a long time coming. Why is now the right time to bring the editor to TrainSimWorld? Well, a couple of reasons really. The first is that it's stable with the core game now, and they are comfortable with that there aren't going to be major breaking changes that will invalidate user creations going forwards. Since they first talked about the editor a few years ago, there were two major core upgrades, each of which would have wiped the community recreations back to zero again, and numerous small changes that would have caused problems. There's a lot more stability now, which makes it a great time to get this out to creators. The second reason that drove the team towards the release now is there's a huge focus on putting the power to do whatever you want in TrainSimWorld 4 into the players and creators' hands, whether it's on-the-fly creation with free roam or easy-to-use in-game tools like Scenario Planner, through to advanced creation tools like PC Editor. It was an obvious part of the puzzle as they developed this theme for the release. So this is the beta of the editor. What does the future of developing the editor entail then? Well, Dovetail want to see what creators do, where they have problems, what they can do to help. There may be a range of options available to solve problems that come up and ease the flow of making content for creators. So they're going to be looking at this feedback and working with players to see what they can do to help. That may involve finding ways to make more cooked content editable, providing source assets to use, or creating tutorials to show how these things are done in a clear way. Dovetail said they'll be led by us and what we tell them. You need to make the best content in TrainSimWorld 4. So will console players be able to enjoy player-made content in the future? They are striving towards that, but it's a very different and challenging path compared to the open PC platforms where files can be shared easily by creators and players. The ultimate goal is to integrate the editor with Creators Club and provide a path that allows content to be uploaded there and made available to console owners, but there's a lot of challenges along this path to overcome. They'll also be working with the top creators to invite them to take their work to the third-party program, where of course it will be available to console players as normal. So will there be support materials to help players use the tool more effectively? Well, they'll be looking to create some tutorials and guides for content creation, starting with scenarios and service mode gameplay, and then they'll build that out based on what creators tell us what they want. They'll also be inviting some of the best creators to share their tips and ideas and really encouraging the community to help each other as well. So will this help to blood the next generation of TSW partner developers? Well, absolutely. The release of the editor means that there's every reason to start learning and creating and to come to Dovetail with your ideas for content. They're keen to see what we create and we're very much looking forward to talking with creators about joining the third-party program and get your content shared with the widest possible audience. They'll also be looking out for creators who specialise in areas and may want to assist Dovetail as second-party developers working in specific areas to help the team on projects as well. So there's always opportunity to do more with your skills as you start developing them. Don't forget to get in touch. So another new feature, free roam mode. It's a sandbox mode enabling you to spawn anything on any route. It's off the rails mode on steroids. In a nutshell, Matt, what is free roam mode? Well, sometimes you just want to take the train of your choice and do whatever you want with it. It's not about planning a scenario or doing a service. You just want to explore, make it up as you go along, and that's what free roam is all about. Free roam mode will be available for our entire collection of routes and trains. So give us an example, Matt, of a session you could do with free roam mode. Okay, so let's say you start on foot in Lindau and begin by spawning the Training Centre ATF steam locomotive with some coaches and a platform. You set a path out to the yard just outside the station and drive the locomotive there. Upon arrival, you get out of the train, spawn some wagons and go back to your ATF. Uncouple the coaches, go get the wagons, and then set a path to a yard further down the line. Along the way, you see an interesting siding and you think, do you know what, it'd be fun to collect some more wagons from there. So you stop nearby, head over to it, spawn wagons, go back to your ATF, adjust your path, take you into the yard to get those new wagons. Once you've got them, you set a new path back out to the main line to continue. Another example that has been around since day one of the game is with the old Sandpatch grade route. They've long had free roam type scenarios that allow the players to switch cars in the yard and have the freedom to do anything they like there, but without the ability to leave the yard. Well, now you can leave that yard and go anywhere. It's important to note that there are no AI trains in the route whilst you're in free roam, so this allows you complete flexibility to go anywhere and do anything. So why should players be excited? Well, this is just unlimited freedom to take anything from your collection and do anything you like. You can start a journey and just decide to change it as you go because you see something interesting or just want to change things up. This is Sandbox Trains. So what has initial feedback from Beta's players staff playing the mode been like? Well, the Beta team have been really enjoying the flexibility it offers, allowing them to explore parts of the route without necessarily having to drive all the way there. It's also proven popular with the photographers in the team, who will spawn on foot at interesting locations, spawn trains where they want them, and take their shot. Going back to Sandpatch grade again, how many hours did people spend operating trains to move them to get to that perfect shot around the turntable in Cumberland? Well, that's really easy to do now. So how easy is it to use? Free roam is extremely easy to use. You're literally popping trains into existence wherever you want them, clicking on the map and literally say, I want to go there. And the sim will figure out points and signals for you automatically. So Matt, what has been your personal favourite run when testing? Well, I don't have any particular preferences when it comes to trains, so I've been doing all sorts with it. But I think my favourite aspect of it is that I can almost instantly and without any planning effort just try things out, like put a class 101 on Peak Forest. No need to think about a scenario, just spawn in a train, set a path and go. So can you spawn trains in timetable mode using free roam features? Yes. This is one of the most exciting features in the release, allowing you to take the living world of the normal timetable in service mode and add your own train to it and do what you want in and around those trains. You'll really begin to appreciate the way the control system, known as the dispatcher, can guide you around dynamically in amongst trains. Be careful though. With great power comes great responsibility. In reality, trains don't just spawn out of thin air. Let me just bring that back. Where is it? Just spawn out of thin air, and this means you have the potential to throw the organised world into chaos. Sounds fun though, doesn't it? Experiment with it. Enjoy the possibilities it brings. Scenario Planner 2.0. getting a long-awaited lick of paint of both Scenario Planner and Livery Designer, with some awesome new features to help you create great content more seamlessly for you and other players to enjoy. What new features are coming to Scenario Planner then? Can you explain a little bit more, Matt? Well, Scenario Planner 2.0 is reworked into a brand new user interface, bringing it more in line with the rest of the UI in the game, making it simpler to understand and easier to use. Beyond the UI changes, there's a range of new features and enhancements that will allow you to make more comprehensive scenarios as well. The changes begin at the very start of the tool. You can now set a description on the scenario, which is used to be auto-generated, allowing you to add some personal flavour to it. Further, that description will now be shown at the beginning of the run when a player starts, so you can also use it to set the scene for the player as well. Creators can now set the start time of scenarios separately to the time the player service starts. They think the primary use of this is going to be allowing the scenario to start 5 to 10 minutes before the player, to allow some action to get moving in front of the player or around the player before they start off. This will allow you to get another train to depart the same station as the player and get ahead of them, for example, to cause some non-green lights right from the start. Another massively requested feature from creators is being able to specifically set the time of year and the weather that the scenario will use. They've made the full dialogue of options available so we can choose dynamic weather or set specific custom patterns. The most important new feature in Scenario Planner 2.0 is that you can now chain paths together. Yes! So imagine Vorarlberg line. You could start in Lindau, run to Lustenau, then run from Lustenau to Bludenz, and then back from Bludenz back to Lindau. This allows you to create a much more diverse range of scenarios, including changing ends and so forth. Exciting stuff. And lastly, they've made it so that AI trains can now start and end their journeys in portals, allowing for a much easier AI usage on corridors. Previously, you had to start all trains on a marker and end them there and then. And it became a challenge to balance these out, those starts and end points, when really the end goal was just to get something going in the other direction. Using portals, this is all now much easier. It's important to note that some features such as portal usage and chaining paths may only work on Train Sim World 4 routes, or may work to varying degrees on older routes depending on how they were originally set up. So why did they choose those features specifically? Well, they spent time looking at what the community was doing with the tools, reading the numerous polls and forum posts about what the most requested features were, and their own wish list for where they wanted to take the system. So what's been the most challenging part to develop? Well, chaining paths was the most challenging part to develop because it required a completely different take on the user interface to allow for the concept of a service not just doing one thing but doing multiple things, and the implications for how that all had to work. It's also influenced how they make the scenario paths, since the paths have to have endpoints that can be joined together in this way too. So what will this enable players to do with their own content? Well, creators should be able to make far more varied and interesting scenarios. We're already making an amazing range of content that's shared on Creators Club, and this will expand that greatly. The range of content that they see on Creators Club already exceeds what they had expected, and this is just going to make it even more fun and varied. Please note, AI portals and chain paths are just for Train Sim World 4 content. However, the remaining features are available for all add-ons and routes. So, Livery Designer. In Train Sim World 4, alongside the sweep of changes coming to Creators Club, the Livery Designer has been revamped to better help the player create the best liveries they can with the new features. Kat, Associate Producer, has more details. So what new features are coming then, Kat? More layers. Before, the old Livery Designer had a maximum number of 300 layers for the player to place on their model. Now the max number has gone up to 1,000 layers, allowing players to create much more detailed designs. Organise layer lists. Instead of placing all layers together in one long list, the layers will now be separated by the side of the model they're placed on. For example, layers placed on the front of the model will be listed separately from the layers listed on the back of the layers. With the layer number being increased, this organisation will help players keep track of the components of their creations. Type text. Livery Designer will still have letters all as selectable layers, but another feature has been added to extend this. Players will now be able to type out full words and preview them before placing them on their models. This will make the task of adding text a lot easier by taking out the pain of placing and sizing each individual letter. So why did they choose these features specifically? Well, these features were chosen to help the players create the type of liveries they want. From observing what people have been sharing on Creators Club, they have an in-depth idea of what kind of creations people want to make, so they've added the new features to help them. So what's been the most challenging part to develop? Well, it's been updating the UI and the type text feature. The new UI's overlay is a lot more detailed than the previous one, and it has provided challenges for the UI to make sure the player experience hasn't been impacted negatively by the changes. Type text has also been a new challenge for the engineering team, and whilst there were teething issues, they are ecstatic with the results and excited to see what players will create. Photo mode. Strike a pose. Ever had that moment where you've seen the perfect railfan opportunity slip through your fingers as you are travelling too quickly or worried about operating your train? Well, with photo mode you have the freedom to take amazing screenshots for both your personal use and to share off your creation. Cat's back with more. In a nutshell then, what's photo mode? It's a game feature new to Train Sim World. So with this mode the player can pause the game mid-game and switch to a camera view that they can position in the paused world to get the best shot they can. They can also adjust the image by changing the contrast, saturation, brightness and camera focus. So how can players access it? Well, you can access it through the pause menu. After the player has taken all their shots, they can back out of that mode the same way they back out of a pause menu. So if you go into pause, go to options where you've got, restart and things like that, and that's where it is. So what can they do with the new railfan shots? Well, these images can then be uploaded to Dovetail Live and used as images to be used in Creators Club when uploading a new creation. So what's been your favourite shot so far, Kat? Well, my favourite shot has been one of the Azuma locos when she was capturing shots for the menu UI. You can see the shot in game on the main menu on the to the trains button. What's my favourite shot? Well, I actually had a go last week and I took a volumetric fog on full 6:30 in the evening coming out of Doncaster with the Flying Scotsman with the Azuma coming past into the station, and I took a nice shot there. That's been, well, I say that's my favourite shot. That's kind of the third shot I've taken in total, and that is my favourite. Scoring 2.0 then. So, Dovetail want to reward driving expertise, so they've shaken up the scoring system. Matt, give us the finer details. Why was there a need to change the scoring system? Well, over the years, they found the scoring system had needed improvement when it comes to rewarding scores based on better driving standards. It was given so many points for an accurate stop that was on time. It just basically meant no sense to stick to speed limits for the sake of getting those accurate time points. Scoring is important. It's popular with a lot of players, and they use it to get some second opinion on how their journey went and how it compares to previous journeys they've done or their friends have done. It's not for everyone, and that's why they have added a setting option to turn off the score display, but for the majority that do, it's very important. So give a brief summary then, Matt, how you're improving it for both advanced and newer players. So they've put a lot less reward in for your accurate stops and for on-time stops, and balance that with the ability to get more points for the ride in between. If you run with safety systems on, you'll get even more points during the run. You'll also get a few extra points for making sure the headlights as such are correctly set. Is it raining? Switch the wipers on. Because of how the scores have been adjusted, they wanted to acknowledge that there are a lot of players who simply aren't interested in using safety systems, but still want to feel good about their runs because they're doing well in other aspects. So they've added a new medal, Platinum, which is for those who do great, but do so with safety systems on. If you don't want to use safety systems, you'll still be able to earn a gold medal. So Matt, run us through an example. You earn 30 points per quarter mile that you drive within the limit, and another 30 if you do that with safety systems on, and another 5 if the train is set up correctly, so your maximum per quarter mile is 65 points. So it used to be 30. If you drive a little over the limit, you'll lose half of it. If you drive more than a little over the limit, you'll lose the lot and won't gain any new points at all until you get back within the speed limit again. If it's raining and you don't have the wipers on, you'll lose a small percentage of your earned points each quarter mile till you put them back on. If you're coupling to another vehicle and you do so too hard, that will take some points off you. So be gentle. Stop accuracy bonuses have now gone from 160 points to 500 points. And the on-time bonus has now gone from 500 down to 80. Both scaled according to how far from ideal you are. Is this only for TSW4 content? So, since this is a new scoring system, it has to be applied to content specifically. So they will be using it on Train Sim World 4 content from now on. Older content will still use the original scoring system. So what would a player need to do in order to achieve the new Platinum tier of medals? Well, it's there for those who excel at the drive whilst also using the safety systems. With these new changes to scoring, they've also been able to implement a fix for all unachievable gold medals that will be available from the launch of Train Sim World 4. Ease of access improvements. Whilst for the lot of you, your first experience of Train Sim World is a distant memory. Yeah, 2018 for me. Founders Edition. However, Dovetail are continuing to improve a TSW newbie's first time playing the game, so they've also bundled in some UI and accessibility improvements that all players can enjoy too. So what do they mean, ease of access? Well, this covers a range of different topics, but it's really all just about making the game more understandable, helping players find things to do that they'll be comfortable, they can achieve, and then trying to give them some more help when they're actually in the cab. Trains and railways are both hard, much harder than is apparent until you're actually in the hot seat and someone's saying, "Now shut this cab down, change that junction, put that train over there." So this covers a difficulty rating for each train, similar to how scenarios work, so you can readily tell if a train is easier to drive, like a 375, or harder, like a 143 or a US freight loco. Scenarios now tell you what makes up their difficulty ratings, so you can better determine if it contains something you're not comfortable with, or something particularly you enjoy, such as changing cabins, adverse signals, etc. Automatically setting some of the in-game settings so that the experience more matches whether you pick beginner, expert, or the new standard level when you create your profile. But everything remains customizable so you can tune to your preference, of course. Adding the 323 and the ATF to the training centre, and reworking tutorials to use these trains alongside the existing 66 for a better onboarding experience and getting basic passenger tutorials and changing cabin tutorials into the training centre fundamentals. Well, if you think the 66 is probably quite difficult for some people to use for beginners, so I think 323 adding that and the ATF is a good starter for them. Adding gates to train controls. So that you can't accidentally put the train in a bad place, some trains will let you easily slide into the emergency brake, which can then be awkward to get out of it again. With these gates in place, you'll need to release and reapply the control to get it to go into that emergency state. A simplified HUD for beginners which removes some of the more advanced information and cleans up the screen, allowing more immersion in the in-game cab while still providing the basic essentials. A minimal hub for all users that provides only the basic objective information required to understand the task at hand and removing all other HUD elements, firmly placing your immersion in the train but still allowing you to complete tasks without having to actually learn routes fully. Matt's particularly excited by this feature as he likes to play without the HUD, but he just doesn't have time to sit and learn every route to that required level. For those that do want to turn everything off, F1 key used to toggle this, a button on the controller also does that, which is the start button, you know, the options button, the 3-line button. I still call it the start button because that's what it's always been called, you know, back to the old computer games and consoles. Anyway, however, when you do that, it also turns off the useful tips telling you where controls are as you move them. So they've added an off state to the HUD setting which turns everything off but leaves the tooltips still able to show. Reset train simulation physics in the pause menu. Have you ever got to a state in a train where no matter what you do, you just can't get the thing to move? Like the brakes seem stuck or something? Many trains have completely realistic functions that, if misused, can create problems for those inexperienced. A good example of this is that on many trains you pull the brake into the release state and hold it there. You're actually overcharging the brake pipe beyond its normal 5 bar. A useful function in reality for various reasons, but can then mean it takes extra time to get the train moving, since that needs to come naturally back to the 5 bar again. There's a new function in the pause menu that will let you reset the train simulation physics to how they were at the beginning of the scenario. So if things have gone strange for you and you can't see what to do, hit that button and it should sort itself out. Missing a station? We'll just carry on to the next one. Well, have you ever missed a station in Train Sim World? Yes. But Matt, have you missed a station? No, I've never missed any stations. But we've heard stories from those who have all the time. Train Sim World has frankly never dealt with this very well. In some cases you could stop and reverse back, but in many cases the signalling either won't let you reverse, or if you did, you'd end up stuck at a red, not being able to depart again. They fixed this. If you miss a station, it will fail the objective and move you on to the next one. Just carry on to complete your ride, or press pause, rage a little, try again. As Matt says, not that he has any experience in doing. The next couple of new assist features are intended to make life easier for everyone. Some will see these as actually making it more realistic, while others may prefer to turn them off and continue to doing the actions manually. It's your choice. Coupling and uncoupling can now be set to semi-automatic. If it's enabled, then when you need to couple to some magons, just buffer up to them and they'll couple regardless of what type of coupling they are. US auto couplings do this anyway, but now this will apply to every type of coupling. If it's disabled, the behaviour as previously with manual couplings is still required. For uncoupling when enabled, you simply stop at the start and you need to uncouple and it will pop up with a prompt. Press the indicated button and the uncouple will be done for you immediately. Again, turn the setting off if you want to revert. Navigating in yards is one of Matt's favourite things, moving back and forth to get to the right places. But in reality, it's not the driver who's doing this, it's someone in the yard working with you. It's also confusing for new players who may not even appreciate the need to set junctions manually if they've become used to mainline operation where it's done all automatically. So with this option enabled, all those junctions get set for you automatically now in the yard. Combining these two new functions, coupling and uncoupling, and yard junctions together means that switching, shunting can be much simpler, moving back and forth as needed, and they've already had feedback that for some of the beta testers, it makes those type of services more endurable. Endurable and enjoyable. Tutorial recommendations. Lastly, you're going to get advised of where tutorials haven't been completed that they feel would be more useful as prerequisites for a particular service or scenario. Don't worry though, you can turn them off. So how do you determine a locomotive's difficulty tiering? Well, what types of controls does it have, such as a single control combined handle, a more complex multiple handle system? How much do you need to do into normal operations with the train, like cutting in brakes or just get in and go? How easy are the brakes to operate? Does it have any limitations or behaviours such as cutouts that might make it more of a challenge? A variety of cases are considered to help guide you towards trains you can achieve success with. Of course, this is just guidance. You can still pick any train at any time, but with this setting you at least know what you're potentially getting yourself in for. So are these changes customizable in the settings menu? Well, the settings and accessibility menus have been expanded considerably with more options, and there's also a new player assist menu with more options on there too. So how can they benefit both new players and hardcore players alike? Well, hopefully we can gather from the range of new features and challenges outlined above that there's something interesting and useful for players of all experiences in the game. New players will find their journey into trains a more predictable and understandable one. Intermediate players have ways to ramp up the authenticity of the experience, and advanced players can really aim for that real driver experience. So what accessibility changes have they made? One of the consistent bits of feedback they've had from players with a wide range of accessibility issues is that it would be much better and much easier if they had a consistent and complete range of key mappings that worked across the trains. Far too often are there essential functions on trains that are just not operational from the keyboard and require a fine access to operate controllers or screens within the trains themselves, and for some players that simply makes the train inaccessible to them. So they've gone through and added a vast range of new key mappings that are all rebindable and should cover just about every option in trains. Whether you use the keyboard itself to drive them, or plug in external hardware such as big buttons etc. to issue the key presses, you should now find this significantly more usable and complete. Haptics. All new for Train Sim World 4, haptics are a great way to bolster your immersion whilst playing the game on a controller. Let's speak to associate producer Jordan for the details. So what do we mean, haptics? Well, it's the functionality of the controller vibrating during certain events, and even light bar and speaker support on certain platforms. Haptics really helps to provide a sensation representative of actions happening in the game. So what haptics have been implemented? Track rumble vibration, throttle and brake level vibration, collision with buffers and couplings vibration, track switches interaction, hovering over interactable controls in the cab, train safety system alerts via controller speaker, next signal aspects shown on light bar. Now, are there any differences between different platforms? Well, the only difference is that the controller speaker and light bar support is only for PS4 and PS5, as the other controllers do not contain those features. Is this only for TSW4 content? The only thing that will only work with Train Sim World 4 content is the train safety system alerts via the controller speaker. All other haptics functionality will work on everything when played in Train Sim World 4. So why should players be excited for the changes? Well, players should be excited for this feature as it adds a whole nother level of immersion when playing Train Sim World 4. When things are at the toughest with safety systems sounding and red signals up ahead, the visual and audio feedback from the controller really helps to make you feel more in control about the decisions you make driving trains, to better be able to react to things happening around you. The vibration on the controller aids with the sense of driving the trains from the comfort of your sofa. All these haptics can be amended in the gamepad settings menu to either increase or decrease the intensity of the vibration, the volume of the audio and the brightness of the light bar, and even disable some of them if you want. Thanks, Jordan. What's up next? It's gone foggy. Anyway, volumetric fog. It looks so good, and I can say that as well. It does. Volumetric fog provides a really important depth to the graphics and also means headlights can be hindrances rather than helps in certain conditions. Let's check in with Alex, Senior Software Engineer. So what benefits does this provide us? Whereas previously fog could only have been one brightness across the scene, volumetric fog allows fog to be lit up by various individual lights in the world. This allows the sun to be cast God rays at sunrise and sunset, as well as train headlights and some scenery to produce beams of light when it gets dark. So do we have any shots of how volumetric fog makes a difference to the routes feel? Well, we've got images that have been coming up, so just have a look at them. Is this only for Is this only for TSW4 content? Well, volumetric fog has been built on top of TOD 4, the lighting system introduced in Train Sim World 3, to take advantage of the physically based light setup. It's therefore compatible with more recent routes, broadly those released for Train Sim World 3 onwards. Will it impact performances? Well, it is inherently a more expensive technique. It will have a slight performance impact. For this reason, It's available exclusively on PC and more powerful console hardware. So that's PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and Xbox One X. That's a new one. So normally these features are like all on the latest Gen 9, but Xbox One X, so the beefier Xbox, yeah? It can also be toggled in settings for those who prefer higher frame rates. Fog isn't the only thing feature filling the room. Let's play it loud with the fabulous new sounds and audio. With TSW4, they've really pushed the boat or train out with the recording and mixing audio, getting real-life recordings from visits to Metrolink in California, Siemens in Germany, and of course Scotsman. Members from the audio design team Dale, Ryan and Matthew are here to tell us all about the making of the audio for TSW4. So what was it like working with the license partners to get the recordings? Well, Ryan says working with the license partners was a really positive experience. Everyone out in LA was so into what they were doing and allowed them to have great access into parts of the train that they would otherwise have never have experienced and captured for the game. Metrolink were a vital resource and continue to be with them throughout the implementation. Matthew, working on LNER couldn't have been any smoother. They were extremely helpful and interested in what they were doing, or what Dovetail were doing, and were eager to help in any way they could. They were very facilitating for performing all sorts of weird and wacky maneuvers so that they could get any number of audio possibilities for relays, shut-offs, squeaks, creaks, which really help bring the loco to life. Also a big shout out to the experts from Metrolink, who have been invaluable help for working on the F125 and Rotums and in providing feedback. So what techniques did the team need to employ to ensure as authentic a recording as possible? Dell says they've recently purchased new recorders, the Zoom F3s, which have been used for these recordings. Their first time capturing audio in 32-bit floating point, which is perfect for recording locomotives as it mitigates any distortion from loud sounds. Techniques that were employed to capture authentic recordings included stereo XY pattern mics inside the cab to reference the driver's perspective, and using a shotgun mic on close-up interactable features like levers, buttons, switches. They also utilised extremely high-quality condenser microphones attached via magnets and cable ties within windshields to the undersides of cabs, and passenger cars pointed at the wheels and axles to capture running sounds at all speeds. These were recorded using Zoom F3s, which are specifically made for failure-free field recording. The input signal is recorded in 32-bit float WAV format, which can retain the resolution at the time of recording and reproduces sound without degradation, retaining the original resolution even after normalization processing after recording. Finally, they utilise mid-side recording techniques for every horn in order to have more control over the width of the stereo image, while still maintaining a high quality centre image, perfect for the horns. So how many recordings and images did you take on the Metrolink trip? 9,073 photos and 55 hours of audio recorded. What was the most challenging part of collecting this then? Ryan says, the most challenging part of collecting the source material was probably the long hours in hot cab cars with little sleep and jet lag. The level of detail they had to capture can sometimes take hours in one spot, and a lot of time and patience is required from both parties. Making sure you remember to eat and drink can be quite hard. So Matthew says probably the most challenging part for him was helping organise the logistics of the trip for recording. It was only his second week on the job, but he was in charge of verifying all the equipment and transporting it to and from site each day as he was driving them around. Needless to say, he was paranoid. He'd forgotten something for the entire week. Do you have any fun anecdotes from the trip? Some recording equipment, Dale said, was sent to Austria for recording the Vectron, and actually all got stuck in customs and couldn't be used. One time they were recording the internal aircon sounds for the Rotem passenger cars. They had all the doors shut and everyone off, so they shut the power down to record the sound of the AC kicking in. But after a long delay, they realised they were locked in with no way out for a while. Wow, that's bad. The guide at the LNER depot in Edinburgh had one of those thickest Fife accents he's ever heard Matthew says he's now I'm Scottish and I could barely... Matthew said, here we go, he's Scottish and he could barely understand him. So I have no idea how Adam kept up. What work needs to happen after the recordings have taken place then? Well, upon returning, all 55 hours of audio needs to be downloaded from SD cards and catalogued into the library. Listening through each recording can be a bit laborious, as some of them can be especially long, such as the recordings from the bogies, as they need to identify in the recordings what sounds each recorder captured. Then they embark on the process of editing out each individual sound, cleaning the sounds, making loops if necessary, and then implementing them in the engine. So what's your favourite train from Train Sim World 4 then, audio-wise? Dale, the Vectron, for its beauty of a horn. Shout out to Lucas for a great capture on his debut recording trip. Ryan says his favourite is the F125, because it's big and cool. And Matthew also says the F125, it's loud and has loads of character. And to complement the sounds, how could we not include the beautiful music by Ben Simmons? I think it's Simons or Simmons, I can't remember now. I know it's Ben, but I don't know his surname. Well, I don't know how to pronounce his surname. Well, what we're going to do is not content through, though, with just authentic sounds. They've gone ham on the menu music and audio cues in game with Train Sim World 4. If you watched the first 5 minutes of Dovetail Direct on Tuesday, the City of Rochester Symphony Orchestra, how good were they, gave an emotive rendition of the new track. At the centre of it, senior community manager cum composer Ben has the details on how they made the iconic soundscape of Train Sim World 4. So what did you have to consider when creating the music for TSW4? Well, Ben said he's very lucky in the sense that he's been given the freedom to create and write what feels right to him. That doesn't make the process challenge free. He's very good at getting on his own way and making things difficult for himself. When he found out they were releasing Train Sim World 4, he started writing the main theme before he'd even been asked to. He had an idea in mind and wanted to make that a reality before anything else got in the way. He knew instinctively that he wanted to maintain the theme and motive he'd developed for the previous iteration of Train Sim World 3, because players had grown attached to that, so had he. He also knew that he wanted to expand on that and take the piece in new directions, introduce some new thematic ideas, and go bigger in terms of the overall scale. From his perspective, that posed a challenge because at its core, Train Sim World 4 is a hobbyist game. So although he wanted the sound to be arousing and inspiring, and for it to instill a sense of growing excitement for the journey ahead, he didn't want to hype the players up into a frenzy and get them ready to go to war in an action-packed FPS. He thinks he's successfully navigated away from the ambient soundscape of Train Sim World 3, which was primarily comprised of a very gentle piano, ambient pads and soundscapes, to a full orchestra, piano and choir of Train Sim World 4. He's very proud that everyone at Dovetail Games has loved the theme so much that it's inspired all the other music in the game, prompted them to create a soundtrack as a pre-order benefit on Steam and Epic, and enabled them to film a full music video with the City of Rochester Symphony Orchestra in support of the marketing efforts. So do you have any favourite tracks or moments in the score? E.g. a scene or character you connected with through the music, or a particular musical moment or experience in the game? He does. He mentioned that he'd like to create the in-game music this time. They had the idea to create moments for the players. To briefly explain what moments are, each of the 5 new train routes have scenarios which are situation-based, condensed experiences for the players. For each route, one of these scenarios will have a unique moment where music is at the centre of the action. The Flying Scotsman is coming to Train Sim World 4, and they have a scenario where players have the opportunity to attempt to recreate the awesome 1934 special test run where it clocked 100 miles per hour. As players achieve this astonishing speed, they are presented with sweeping cinematic perspectives of the loco hurtling down a line, accompanied by a swelling celebratory piece of music. It feels timeless and presents aspects of the main theme in new, exhilarating ways. He loves it. And I'm going to say, I've got this soundtrack, and I'm not sad, but I've had it on repeat since I got it. I don't want to know how many times I've listened to it. It's been helping me throughout this week with my other work, just listening to it. It is amazing. You have got to listen to the whole soundtrack. It is so so good. Train Sim World 2 Preservation Crew content. So, Dovetail are sorry to say that at this stage they will not be releasing these updates to Train Sim World 2. It's a really tough decision to make and they've not taken it lightly, but it has become apparent that whilst they've always intended to release the content, for a number of technical reasons it is causing more issues than it resolves with the way the builds now work. Rather than have good intentions but no substance, or worse, a scenario that means your game can't be played how you currently play it, they believe we deserve something concrete. There are many factors at play here. Among other things, various unforeseen technical hurdles have hit when putting builds together, which jeopardised content players were already playing. They also wanted to focus on ensuring that Train Sim World 4 is as good as they can make it for us all. They've always remained hopeful these improvements would be released, but sadly it has become apparent that it's not possible at this stage. They're extremely sorry that it's taken this long to come to this conclusion. For Train Sim World 4, we're making it very clear, or Dovetail are making it very clear, what you can and can't expect from the remaining Train Sim World 3 game updates, and hope we can accept their apology. Train Sim World 3 and 4 patch schedule. Yesterday's roadmap article, we spoke about day 1 content we can expect. Today, Dovetail want to provide more detail on the future content Train Sim World 3 players can expect. Please note that everything in the Train Sim World 3 column will also be available on day 1 for Train Sim World 4. The intention is to release for Train Sim World 3 patches as soon as they can. For more detail for the content of the patches will be confirmed upon release. So there are Train Sim World 3 time frame to be confirmed, New York Trenton new timetable, Peninsula Corridor Baby Bullet services, Midland Mainline route improvement patch, a load of tutorial fixes, a load of scenario fixes, and Norfolk Southern Heritage Pack post-release improvements. Train Sim World 4 launch, so this is going to be for Train Sim World 4 only. A large one, New York to Trenton new timetable, Noverka Dresden TSW4 feature set, Southeastern High Speed patch, Niedertalbahn BR628 in the red livery, Edinburgh Glasgow route improvements patch, Bremen Oldenburg route improvements patch, Peak Forest route post-release improvements patch, Island Line patch, Birmingham Cross City patch, and DBBR 187 audio improvements. There will be Train Sim World 4 projected after launch. That's the Baby Bullet Peninsula Corridor services and the Colnachen new timetable. Oh my goodness, we have got to the end! And it's almost as long as yesterday's. Oh man, that was long. I need some more orange juice. Hopefully you've enjoyed watching this video. If you did like it, give it a thumbs up. Lets me know that you care. Don't forget to watch the Train Real World videos. We were at Lincoln today on the video, and tomorrow we're going to be having a first class breakfast on an LNER Azuma 801-2, so one of the same trains that's coming to Train Sim World 4. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos from MegaSim and Train Real World. Social media links are in the description below. If you do have any questions, comment, take a look at that, check out our Discord server, or check out the Train Sim World frequently asked questions. TrainSimWorld.com FAQ is on there. There's a lot of questions of, will it do this? Can it do that? What about this? What about that? Really good to have a look at yourself. I'm going to have a lie down now because my voice is gone or going. I will see you on the next video. This is MegaSim out of here. See you soon, guys. Bye.